And we start with the search for 56 bodies still missing from that AirAsia jet that crashed into the Java Sea in December. The very latest, Indonesia says it will officially end its search for the 56 bodies. So what does this mean for the family members of the victims? That brings us to our guest, aviation crisis consultant Ken Jenkins. He's also the author of the brand new book, Resilience, Stories of Courage and Survival in Aviation Disasters. The website is kenjenkinsllc.com. Ken, thanks for joining us here on America's Morning News.
Thank you, and good morning, Matt.
The announcement this week that Indonesia will suspend the search, I believe following Sunday, even though 56 bodies are still missing. I'm assuming that many of the family members may have come to terms with the fact that their loved ones may never be found. But what does this announcement do as far as a closure is concerned?
Well, it's certainly a sad day for everybody involved, but for the 56 passengers, what's I think important is it's difficult for them to. It's another challenge for them to move forward with the loss. Closure is a word that we do hear that word a lot, and in an event like this, and actually with any death, there's very seldom ever closure. There's healing and there's integration. And the issue here is going to be for those 56 families, that healing or the integration of this event into their lives may take a lot longer without having a body to bury.
Where does AirAsia go from here as far as Indonesia officially calling off this search?
Well, it's been very interesting to follow AirAsia and their marketing campaigns as a business via Twitter and just in print and whatnot. And they seem to have been very resilient as well, if I may use that word, in being able to maintain a separation between what's going on with the families and their day-to-day operation, which is a good thing for them in the respect that they're still taking care of the families. In the interviews that I've seen with Tony Fernandez, he's done quite a good job of keeping a dialogue up with the families, and that the 56 families that are being impacted here without having a body were also briefed before this announcement was made, and that he's been in constant dialogue with them, which is a good thing for AirAsia. I think they're going to recover well from this horrific event.
That Airbus A320, all 162 people, of course, on board died. That went down during bad weather, less than halfway through its 2-hour flight. Let me ask you this, Ken. We don't know a lot. The black boxes, those cockpit voice recorders, the flight data, that has been recovered, but few details of the analysis of those flight recorders have been made public. Will we learn more about it? Are we going to learn more about it?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, and that's a good question, Matt, because in the United States, that information would be made public. We wouldn't hear the cockpit voice recorder, but we might glean the contents in print and or at least hear a summary of what happened. In Indonesia, I cannot say. Of course, they haven't had a final report on the accident, which may be why we haven't heard anything. There has certainly been some question about an interim report and why that hasn't been made public. And the CEO of AirAsia was quick to say that wasn't his decision to make. That certainly comes from the investigators, and that's true. It does. And they just may simply be waiting until they have all of the information they want to present to give it at once. But if it's anything like the United States and how we conduct an investigation here, that information will be made public.
Let's talk a little bit about the book that comes out this weekend, Ken. I've talked to you over the past couple of years now, whenever there's been an aviation crisis, and there have been too many. I can't say there have been too many over the past couple of years, but you've responded to those. You've responded to the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The book that comes out on Saturday, The Resilience, Stories of Courage, Survival in Aviation Disasters. I can't imagine some of the stories that are in this thing.
Well, and thank you for asking. It was certainly never a course in the trajectory of my life, Matt, that I was going to be an emergency response provider within aviation accidents. I was, for heaven's sakes, going to be an attorney at one point, and somehow my life changed into this realm. But the one thing that I've learned, and I've been very blessed in that I've had a number of families that I've worked with and assisted in the past, is how gracious and kind they are when they're met with folks, not just myself, but other team members from airlines that come in and help with a genuine compassion and empathy to help them through a difficult time. And people are very forgiving and very gracious is just the best word I can come up with. And they're very, and I use the word resilient, they will integrate the loss in their lives. For some, it's just a few days or weeks before they do, and for others, it takes more time. But it's a tremendous thing to see and watch the human spirit evolve, even with such a tragedy like this.
And I would imagine this book is not just for those interested in maybe learning about how these families coped and these families moved on. This has to, I would assume that this would help other families dealing with issues as well, going through a difficult time.
You know, and I hope so. I really actually hope that, Matt, that it helps a lot of businesses understand that when you have such a tragedy, a company tragedy, whether it's an aviation disaster or a pipeline failure or something like that, that the thing that you can do, the singular thing that you can do to help families through this is to be fully transparent and to be honest. I think there's a feeling that we have as human beings that says, you know, let's protect everybody and let's not share with them key pieces of information because we're afraid it's going to inflict more harm. And it's actually just the opposite. Holding back information is what inflicts the harm. People can handle the truth. It just needs to be delivered in a way that is compassionate and empathetic.
I mentioned that you've responded to several incidents at 8 commercial aviation disasters. I'm reading here from the website, KenJenkinsLLC.com. Like I said, several of those have been just over the past couple of years. Did you ever think you would see a stretch like this?
No, I didn't. I mean, when I started in this particular business of emergency response, and I mentioned this in the book, is, you know, we were told when we went through training that we would never use this training, and then we went on to have 8 accidents in 10 years. And who does that? You know, how does that happen? And I certainly wasn't prepared for what I was going to go through. And then I've had the ability to work 4 more since then. But I still see that same resilience in every single accident. You know, people have so many different emotions that they experience, and I understand that. But the one thing that they always do is bounce back.
Yeah. And the book is called Resilience, Stories of Courage and Survival in Aviation Disasters. Ken Jenkins is an aviation crisis consultant. The website is KenJenkinsLLC.com. That book comes out this weekend. You can head to KenJenkinsLLC.com for more information. Ken, thanks for your time. We appreciate it, as always.
Matt, thank you. Good morning.